My name is Madison Brooks, and the moment I realized my family never intended to let me into my sister's wedding, I was standing outside a five-star hotel in a navy blue dress that I had paid for myself, staring at a security guard who kept telling me my name wasn't on the guest list. The strange part? I had spent $87,000 paying for that wedding. The ballroom, the flowers, the photographer, the live band, the custom wedding cake, the honeymoon suite. Every single thing. I paid for all of it, but on the most important day of my sister's life, I wasn't allowed through the front door. The security guard looked uncomfortable. He checked his tablet again. "I'm sorry, ma'am." He wasn't sorry. He was embarrassed. "Your name isn't listed." I stared at him. Then I looked past his shoulder. Through the glass doors, inside the lobby, I could see guests arriving. Women in expensive dresses, men adjusting ties, servers carrying trays of champagne. My mother's dream wedding. My sister's dream wedding. My money. And somehow I wasn't invited. Then I saw my father, standing near the reception desk, laughing, smiling, looking happier than I'd seen him in years. The same father who once told me my business wasn't real. The same father who said social media wasn't a career. The same father who spent 15 years acting as though my success happened by accident. I raised my hand. "Dad!" His smile disappeared. For a moment he looked shocked to see me, not surprised, not confused. Guilty. That was when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. And what happened, 30 minutes later, ended my relationship with my entire family. But to understand why I canceled a wedding I personally paid for, you need to understand what kind of daughter I was. And what kind of family I came from. I am 34 years old. I own 9 coffee shops across Tennessee. 3 years ago, a regional business magazine valued my company at just over $4 million. Last year, my stores served more than 1 million customers. I employ 63 people. I pay health insurance, retirement contributions, bonuses. I built everything from nothing. But if you ask my parents about me, they will tell you a different story. They will tell you I got lucky. They will tell you social media did all the work. They will tell you anyone could have done what I did. What they won't tell you is how many years I spent working 70-hour weeks. Or how many nights I slept in my car because I couldn't afford an apartment. Or how many times I nearly lost everything. My parents have always loved my older sister, Ashley. She is 3 years older than me. Beautiful. Outgoing. Popular. The kind of person people notice when she walks into a room. Ashley never had to work very hard for attention. It simply followed her everywhere. When we were children, she got praised for breathing. I got praised when I achieved something. There's a difference. One teaches confidence. The other teaches exhaustion. I learned that difference early. When Ashley got a B on a math test, my parents took her out for ice cream because she tried her best. When I got straight A's, my father nodded and asked why one of them wasn't an A+. That was our family. Ashley was celebrated. I was evaluated. Ashley was loved. I was measured. And somehow I spent most of my life trying to earn what she received automatically. My first job was at 16. A small coffee shop near downtown Nashville. The owner was a woman named Diane. She paid minimum wage. The espresso machine leaked. The air conditioner barely worked. But I loved that place. I loved the smell of coffee. The morning rush. The conversations. The regular customers. Everything. By 18, I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted my own coffee shop. When I told my parents, they laughed. Not joking laughter. Real laughter. The kind that tells you your dream sounds ridiculous. My father put down his newspaper. "A coffee shop?" "Yes. That's not a career." My mother nodded immediately. "Coffee is a hobby business." Ashley laughed too. Then she asked if I planned to wear a little apron forever. I remember smiling, pretending their words didn't hurt. But they did. They always did. Because no matter how successful I became, part of me still wanted their approval. Part of me still wanted them to look proud. Instead, they looked embarrassed, as if my ambition wasn't ambitious enough. I spent the next 10 years proving them wrong, not because I wanted revenge. At least not at first. Because I wanted freedom. Freedom costs money. And money requires work. So I worked. Every day. Every weekend. Every holiday. At 23, I opened a coffee cart. Not a cafe. Not a storefront. A cart, 8 feet long, 2 espresso machines, 1 folding table, and a borrowed tent. I spent every dollar I had. Then I spent money I didn't have. The first 6 months were brutal. Some days I made less than $50. Some days I cried in the storage room after closing. Some days I honestly thought my parents had been right. Then something happened. Social media exploded. Short videos, coffee recipes, behind-the-scenes content, customer stories. I started posting. Every day. 3 videos. Then 5. Then 10. While other businesses complained about social media, I learned it, studied it, used it. One video reached 50,000 views, then another reached 500,000. Then one crossed 3 million. Suddenly customers were driving hours to buy coffee from the girl they followed online. Lines formed. Revenue doubled, then tripled. The cart became a kiosk. The kiosk became a cafe. The cafe became 3 cafes. Then 5. Then 9. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't struggling. I was succeeding. Really succeeding. The funny thing? My parents still weren't impressed. The worst conversation happened 4 years ago. Thanksgiving, 22 people around my parents' dining room table. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone. One of my cousins congratulated me. She had seen an article about my company. She asked how business was going. Before I could answer, my father answered for me. "Oh, she's doing fine." His tone bothered me immediately. Then he added, "If the internet disappeared tomorrow, she'd be out of business in a month." Everyone laughed. Even Ashley. I sat there smiling, holding a fork. Trying not to react, my mother joined in. "He's right." More laughter. Madison got lucky with social media. Lucky, the word landed like a punch. Because nobody had seen the work. Nobody saw the 14-hour days. The missed birthdays. The sleepless nights. The loans. The stress. The fear. They only saw the result. And they called it luck. That was when something inside me started changing. Slowly. Quietly. But permanently. 2 years later, Ashley got engaged. And suddenly my phone started ringing. Mom. Dad. Mom again. Then Ashley. All within 1 week. The wedding they wanted cost more than they could afford. Much more. The venue alone was nearly $30,000. My father had credit card debt. My mother had refinanced the house. Ashley had almost no savings. They needed help. Specifically, they needed my help. The daughter whose business wasn't real. The daughter who got lucky. The daughter whose success came from the internet. Amazing how valuable internet money becomes when someone else wants it. Ashley cried during our lunch meeting. Real tears. Or at least convincing ones. She talked about her dream wedding. How she'd imagined it since childhood. How she only planned to marry once. How family should help family. I listened. Then I agreed. Because despite everything, she was still my sister. And because a small part of me hoped this would finally change things. Maybe if I helped enough, they would finally see me. Maybe if I gave enough, they would finally appreciate me. I should have known better. I paid for everything. Absolutely everything. And that was my biggest mistake. Not the money. The hope. The belief that generosity creates gratitude. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it creates entitlement. And my family had spent years perfecting entitlement. I didn't know it yet, but I was financing my own humiliation. And on the morning of Ashley's wedding, that bill finally came due. The morning of Ashley's wedding started at 5:30. Not because I was getting married. Because I was paying for the wedding. There is a difference. When you're the bride, people wake you up with champagne. When you're the person funding everything, you wake yourself up with anxiety. I checked my phone before I even got out of bed. 23 unread messages. Florist. Photographer. Venue coordinator. Cake designer. Band manager. Everyone wanted final confirmations. Everyone contacted me. Not Ashley. Not my parents. Me. Because every contract carried my name. Madison Brooks. Brooks Coffee Group. Responsible party. Financial guarantor. Authorized signatory. I spent 2 hours answering questions before I even drank my first cup of coffee. By 8 o'clock, everything was running smoothly. The flowers had arrived. The cake was delivered. The musicians were setting up. The ballroom looked perfect. Exactly the way Ashley wanted. Exactly the way my mother dreamed. Exactly the way $87,000 should look. Around 9:30, I received a text from Ashley. No thank you. No appreciation. Just a photo. She was wearing her wedding dress. The caption read, "Today is finally about me." I stared at the message. Something about it bothered me. Not because it was rude, because it felt revealing. For months, everyone had been talking about the wedding, the family, the celebration, the memories. But in Ashley's mind, there was only one thing. Me. Not us. Not family. Her. I should have paid attention to that feeling. Instead, I ignored it, like I ignored so many warning signs. At noon, I left for the hotel. The ceremony wasn't scheduled until 3. I wanted to arrive early. Make sure everything was perfect. I even brought a gift. A custom photo album. Leather-bound. Handmade. Filled with childhood photographs of Ashley and me. Pictures from birthdays. Christmas mornings. Summer vacations. Back when I still believed we were sisters. I spent nearly $600 creating it. I never got the chance to give it to her. The Grand Wellington Hotel looked beautiful. The entrance was covered with white roses. Valets hurried between luxury cars. Guests filled the lobby. Everything looked elegant. Expensive. Perfect. I smiled. For a moment, I actually felt proud. I had done this. I had made this possible. Despite everything my family had said about me, I had built a business successful enough to create a day like this. I grabbed the gift. Walked toward the entrance. And everything changed. The security guard stepped in front of me, politely, professionally, firmly. "I'm sorry, ma'am." I smiled. "I know. Wedding party." He didn't move. "I need to see your invitation." I laughed. I genuinely thought he was joking. Then I realized he wasn't. "I don't have one. I'm afraid invitations are required." I frowned. "My sister is the bride." He looked uncomfortable. Then he checked something on his tablet. A few seconds passed. Then he looked up. "I'm sorry." My stomach tightened. "Your name isn't on the guest list." I blinked. "What?" "Your name isn't listed." For a second, I thought there had been some misunderstanding. A typo. A mistake. Something simple. Then I noticed something strange. The guard wasn't confused. He wasn't surprised. He looked prepared. Like he'd been expecting me. And suddenly I knew. Someone had warned him. Someone had specifically instructed him not to let me in. A cold feeling settled in my chest. I took out my phone, called Ashley. Voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Called my mother. Voicemail. Called my father. Voicemail. 3 people. 3 ignored calls. At her own wedding, maybe that wasn't unusual. But together? At exactly the same moment? No. That wasn't coincidence. That was planning. 10 minutes later, I got my answer. Ashley appeared. Surrounded by bridesmaids. Laughing. Smiling. Looking absolutely beautiful. Then she saw me. And her smile vanished. Not confusion. Not surprise. Annoyance. Like I was an inconvenience. Like I was interrupting something. I walked toward her. "Ashley," she sighed. Actually sighed. "What are you doing?" I stared at her. "What am I doing? Why are you here?" For a moment I couldn't process what she'd said. Why was I here? At the wedding I paid for. The wedding she begged me to finance. The wedding that existed because of my money. I honestly thought I had misheard her. Then she crossed her arms. "You're late." I looked at my watch. It was 2:17. The ceremony started at 3. I looked back at her. "No, I'm not." She shrugged. "The seating is already finalized." What does that have to do with anything? Another shrug. Nothing can be changed now. I felt like I was speaking to a stranger. Not my sister. Not someone I'd spent my entire life loving. A stranger. Then my mother appeared. And everything became clear. She walked directly to Ashley's side. Not mine. Never mine. Ashley immediately leaned toward her. Mom wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Protective. Comforting. Supportive. The way she always did. Then she looked at me. "Madison." Her voice carried a warning, not concern. "Warning. Please don't make a scene." I laughed. A short laugh. A disbelieving laugh. A scene? My father arrived next, and instead of asking what happened, he said, "You should leave." Just like that. No explanation. No apology. No embarrassment. Just leave. As though I was a stranger. As though I wasn't the reason this wedding existed. I looked around. Guests were starting to notice. People were watching. Whispering. Ashley lowered her voice. Please, not because she felt bad. Because she was worried about appearances. Don't ruin today. That sentence broke something inside me. Not dramatically, not loudly. Quietly, permanently. Because suddenly I understood. They didn't forget me. They excluded me, deliberately, the same way they'd excluded me from praise, from family decisions, from important moments, for years. This wasn't new. This was simply the most expensive version of the same behavior. I looked past them, toward the ballroom. The flowers, the decorations, the musicians, the crystal chandeliers. Everything. Every single thing, paid for by me. Then I looked back at my family, and for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to earn their love. I stopped trying to prove my worth. I stopped hoping. Hope can be expensive. This wedding had cost me $87,000. The lesson was worth much more. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone. My father frowned. What are you doing? I smiled. The calmest smile I've ever given him. Something you taught me. His eyebrows pulled together. What? I opened my contacts. Found a number, pressed call. The hotel's executive director answered on the second ring. His name was Michael Warren. We'd worked together on 3 corporate events before. He knew exactly who I was. Madison. His voice was warm. Everything okay? I looked directly at my father. Then at Ashley. Then at my mother. And I said 5 words that changed everything. No, Michael. It isn't. And that's when the wedding began to collapse. No, Michael. It isn't. The lobby suddenly felt very quiet. My father frowned. Ashley rolled her eyes. My mother looked nervous. On the other end of the line, Michael's voice became serious. What's wrong? I took a slow breath. I'm the contracting client for the Harrison wedding in the grand ballroom. Yes. I'd like to immediately cancel every service currently billed through Brooks Coffee Group. Silence. Then Michael spoke carefully. Madison, are you sure? I am. Another pause. Understood. That was it. No drama, no shouting. Just business. The same business my father spent years insisting wasn't real. I ended the call. Ashley laughed. Actually laughed. You can't cancel a wedding 30 minutes before it starts. I looked at her. I guess we're about to find out. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, the ballroom doors opened. A hotel manager hurried across the lobby. Behind him came 2 assistants, carrying clipboards. Another employee approached the florist. A second approached the musicians. A third headed toward the catering team. The first signs of confusion appeared almost immediately. The band stopped setting up. The florist looked shocked. The catering manager checked his phone twice. Then 3 times. Ashley stopped smiling. My father noticed it too. What is going on? Nobody answered him. Because nobody worked for him. They worked for the hotel, and the hotel worked for the client. Me. 5 minutes later, Michael himself appeared. He walked directly toward us, professional. Calm, polite. The way executives behave when a disaster is unfolding. Miss Brooks. I nodded. Thank you for coming. He turned toward my family. I apologize for the inconvenience. My father stepped forward. Inconvenience? Michael remained calm. The contracting party has withdrawn authorization for today's event services. Ashley stared at him. What does that mean? It means all services billed through Brooks Coffee Group have been canceled. The color drained from her face. My mother grabbed her arm. No. Michael nodded sympathetically. I'm afraid so. Ashley laughed nervously. Okay, very funny. Nobody laughed. Not even a little. Then, reality arrived. The musicians began packing instruments. The florist started removing arrangements. Hotel employees wheeled away trays of food. Servers disappeared. The giant wedding cake was rolled back toward the kitchen. The ballroom was literally being dismantled in front of our eyes. Guests gathered in small groups, whispering, watching, confused. My father turned toward me. His face was red. What have you done? I met his eyes. The same thing you did. What? I removed someone who wasn't welcome. For a moment he looked genuinely speechless. Then he exploded. You selfish little dad. My voice stopped him. Not because it was loud. Because it was calm. Completely calm. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of him. I paid for this wedding. Guests were listening now. Dozens of them. Family members, friends, co-workers, everyone. I paid for the ballroom. Silence. I paid for the flowers. People started looking at Ashley. I paid for the photographer. More silence. I paid for the band. My mother's face had become pale. I paid for the cake. Nobody moved. And after paying for everything, your family decided I wasn't important enough to attend. The whispers started immediately. Ashley looked horrified. Not because she felt guilty, because people were hearing the truth. My father pointed at me. You ruined your sister's wedding. I shook my head. No. Then I pointed at the hotel entrance. You ruined it the moment you told security not to let me inside. That hit hard. Because it was true. And everyone knew it. Ashley began crying. Real tears this time, mascara running down her cheeks. Guests rushed toward her, trying to comfort her. But the damage was done. A cousin approached me quietly. Madison. She looked stunned. You paid for all of this? I nodded. Her eyes widened. She looked toward my parents, then back at me. And suddenly I realized something most people didn't know. My family had hidden it. For months they had accepted praise for a wedding they never funded. They let everyone believe they were responsible. They took the credit. Just like always, except this time, the truth arrived before the ceremony started. I picked up the gift album I'd brought for Ashley. The leather-bound one filled with childhood photographs. I looked down at it. Then at my sister. For a brief moment I remembered being 10 years old, following her around. Wanting her approval. Wanting her friendship. Wanting a sister. I realized I had spent years loving a version of Ashley that never really existed. The woman standing in front of me wasn't my sister. She was simply someone who shared my last name. I walked over, placed the photo album in her hands. She looked down at it, confused. Then I spoke quietly. So you remember there was a time when I loved you? Ashley burst into tears. I turned away and left. My phone started ringing before I reached the parking lot. Dad. Decline. Mom. Decline. Ashley. Decline. Again. 32 missed calls before I reached home. 74 by midnight. 112 by the following afternoon. I didn't answer any of them. For once, I wasn't interested in explaining myself. They understood exactly what happened. So did I. The story spread quickly. Families talk. Guests talk even faster. Within a week, half the city knew. Not the version my parents told. The real version. The version where the successful daughter paid for everything, then got excluded from the wedding she funded. People had opinions. Lots of them. Most weren't on my parents' side. Neither were several relatives. A few even called to apologize. Apparently they never knew how my family treated me. Apparently they believed my parents' version of events. Apparently lies survive only until someone tells the truth. 3 weeks later I received a letter, not a text. Not a phone call. A handwritten letter. From my mother. 5 pages. The first honest thing she had ever written to me. She admitted everything. The favoritism, the excuses, the years of minimizing my success. The constant need to make Ashley feel special. She admitted they always expected me to understand. To sacrifice. To forgive. To accept less. Because I was stronger. The letter ended with a sentence I read 10 times. We spent so many years being proud of Ashley's potential that we forgot to be proud of your reality. I cried when I read that. Not because it fixed anything. Because it was true. I never reconciled with my father. Not really. Some things break beyond repair. Some people only value what they lose. My father lost access to me, and eventually he understood what that cost. Ashley and I haven't spoken in nearly 2 years. I hear she's married now. They eventually had a smaller ceremony. A much cheaper one. One they paid for themselves. I genuinely hope she's happy, but happiness and forgiveness are not the same thing. As for me, 6 months after the wedding, I opened my 10th coffee shop. A year later, I opened my 11th. Business kept growing. Life kept moving. And one morning, while reviewing plans for a new location, I realized something. For the first time in my life, I no longer cared whether my parents approved of me. The need was gone. Completely. I had spent 34 years chasing validation from people determined not to give it. And the moment I stopped chasing it, I became free. Sometimes people ask whether I regret canceling the wedding. The answer is simple. No. I regret paying for it. I regret believing money could buy respect. I regret thinking sacrifice creates love. But I do not regret walking away. Because that day outside the hotel, when security told me my name wasn't on the guest list, I finally understood something that should have been obvious years earlier. You cannot earn a place in someone's heart by funding their life. You cannot purchase respect from people who have already decided not to give it. And if someone tells you that you don't belong at a table you paid to build, the correct response is not to beg for a seat. It's to stand up. Take your money. And leave them with the bill. That was the day my sister lost her wedding. But it was also the day I stopped losing myself. And between the two, I got the better deal.